The great psychic educator, thinker, and astrologer Rudolf Steiner had this idea about what happens between death and rebirth. He specifically didn't call it afterlife because Steiner felt that calling it afterlife is a heavy prejudice. It's a tremendous bigotry, that what happens between birth and death is the only thing that counts, and then anything that happens next is just this after thing. He said no, that what happens between death and rebirth is equally, if not more important than what happens between birth and death. So instead of calling it afterlife, he called it between death and rebirth. And his idea of what happens then is that the soul releases its hold on the body in stages. And in those stages, you get to witness from the neutral viewpoint of the soul rather than the biased viewpoint of the ego. Because while you're alive in between birth and death, it's very natural to identify with yourself, with your nature, and to especially act as though you're the one who exists inside this envelope of skin and everything else exists outside of that envelope. Steiner says when you die, the reverse occurs, where you now identify with the entire universe except for the last human lifetime that you had, which you get to witness from a purely neutral viewpoint. You get to witness how your actions affected all things, how your thoughts and your words and your actions, as well as your inactions, played out in the whole scope of time and space. But you're not witnessing this from a moralistic, judgmental viewpoint like some kinds of religion would make you think. You're witnessing it from a purely neutral experience as a soul in spirit rather than in the flesh. You're getting to say, that's how all those things I was doing affected everything else. As you go through this experience in stages, you get to review how the effects of that most recent incarnation fit with all your incarnations, past and future. You get to witness the reincarnational arc that your soul has been on from your first human lifetime through the most recent one, and then even on to the future. And at that point, Steiner says, in conjunction with the planet Saturn, you digest fully the meaning of what you've been doing in this greater arc of life to life to life. And then you make a few key prenatal resolves, 1, 2, or 3 promises of what you want to get done if you come back again. And once you get super clear as to what you want to do if you come back, Saturn says, got it. Then you begin the reverse journey. Previously, you were expanding in stages out of that last life. Now you start condensing in stages towards the upcoming life until you're conceived. And then you're born. And then you grow up and you forget the vows you made when you were in the spirit world. But Saturn remembers them. And when you act here on Earth in a way that's in keeping with your prenatal vows, Saturn opens the barricades and says, go for it, and supports you. And when your actions and thoughts and intentions and words run counter to your prenatal vow, Saturn says, I don't think so. Not so fast, my fine feathered friend. This is why you might be all set to go to one university and you're doing everything you can to get in and you just can't get there. In other words, where a lot of energy put into a certain direction just doesn't pay off. It's probably because that's not in keeping with your prenatal promises. You don't really need to go there. You think you do, but Saturn has another idea, and Saturn remembers the truth of your soul more than your average, normal, everyday human consciousness, which is filled with a lot of other things beside the truth of your soul. And contrarily, when you make choices and decisions that run in accord with your prenatal vows, Saturn says, go for it. Unlike the traditional astrological view of Saturn as an external patriarchal authority who's trying to force you to conform to certain standards of behavior, like some sort of religionist god, Steiner's view of Saturn is, well, yes, Saturn is the voice of authority, but it's the authority of your own soul.